Communications. Any communications outside of what we have on the agenda? Okay. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review the minutes of the August 3rd meeting, and if so, if I could get a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Perfect. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this should be a fairly simple meeting tonight. We've got two items on the agenda, both workshops. And the first one is the text amendment to the Village of Tinley Park zoning ordinance, section 3.n.x, outdoor sales display. Consider recommending that the village board approve text amendments to section 3.n.6 of the Village of Tinley Park zoning ordinance. The proposed text amendments include, but are not limited to, allowing outdoor display areas on non-residential properties. And with that, we'll turn it over to Stephanie.
Thank you. So the first thing we're going to talk about tonight are outdoor displays. Now, if you had a chance to look at section 10 or 3N6 in the current zoning ordinance, you saw that it restricted this to seasonal garden items, and it's pretty vague with sort of what else you can do there, where you can do it, and it says you can only do it during a certain season, and you have to have a yearly site plan approval from the zoning administrator, or permission from the zoning administrator. We don't really have a whole lot of people that choose to go about doing that process when they have outdoor displays, and there's only a few outdoor displays that actually are only seasonal garden items, like you see from Schul or Ace Hardware. Those are the things that are technically allowed under this current code. We've seen in a couple instances, and the picture you read back will show this, but also on the screen here, there are several businesses around town that are displaying different products outdoors. It could be anything from little sidewalk sales, where they're just trying to show you what they have, to larger equipment and sheds, even sometimes, like we see here. Sometimes play equipment, sometimes outdoor backyard patio equipment, furniture type things. We see ice and propane and red box machines and many other sort of accessory sale display type entities outside of businesses. So some things that we want to talk about is how do we formally allow these types of things? How do we approve them? What are the standards for them? Because we've had several businesses like American Sale and Great Escape who do great business in Tinley Park but have larger items they want to display. How do we make that a possibility for them in our code? And right now we don't really have a way to go about reviewing that type of display because it's just not really addressed. Some other things too, and I don't think I put the picture in here, but we've got Sears that sometimes where Eurofresh was located in that shopping center. Sometimes they'll put lawnmowers or refrigerators and stuff out there. It's not your typical little, sidewalk sale item. So how do we address those types of things that maybe aren't as typical as potted plants or an ice vending machine type thing? So what I did is I drafted a text amendment that addresses those sort of different uses. And the premise is that there's three levels. The first two being the types of things we might want to approve administratively based on fitting within a certain criteria. And the third being sort of the larger items that really need to come to you guys for some sort of approval of that outdoor display. And purposely, I know there was a question about those regulations that Commissioner Gray added. Purposely, I did not include a lot of stipulations for level 3 because it's going to come to you on a case-by-case basis to talk about size and time of display and location. So with the level 1 and 2, we want it pretty cut and dry since staff could approve those potentially. But level 3 is kind of the everything else that is mentioned category and those larger items. So what I wanted to go over was exactly what's in those 3 categories and give you a short overview of the regulations that we've talked about. First of all, I want to say we did research several other communities to see what their regulations are. And Orland Park has some regulations, but they're not consistent with some of the things that we see out there. They're limited to only larger lots being allowed to have them. They have to be set back at least 30 feet. They can last for 6 months. And they have temporary like sidewalk sales or tent sales that are allowed for just 3 days at a time, that sort of thing. And I'm sure you could ask for a variance to those if you have a different display, of course, but there wasn't really anything that addressed the American sale or Great Escape type scenario. In Naperville, they have a code that's similar to ours where it talks about seasonal items pretty much, and anything else that doesn't meet the regulations has to be approved by the city council. So that's kind of consistent with the level 3 idea that I had for her code. In Richmond, Indiana, they gave specific standards for location size and screening, and I took a lot of notes from their particular ordinance to sort of formulate the way that ours would lay out by the 3 different categories and some of the location recommendations, size recommendations, those sorts of things. Glenview, they allow the seasonal goods to be displayed under plastic or canvas covering, and they have a maximum size, and it has to be approved by their appearance commission. And then they have some provisions for Christmas trees, pumpkins, and plants that are a little bit more lenient because they're more just gardening items or seasonal items. And then Evanston also has different display regulations regarding sidewalk sales, festivals, art, craft, and plant shows. They allow a certain number of days and a certain amount of days per year, and they say that it can't be in the parking lot or front yard setbacks. And then they have a separate category again for the Christmas trees, pumpkin, and gardening and fruit type things. So it's pretty consistent to see the different categories being treated a little bit differently. So again, that speaks to why I was thinking of the different levels. And if you'll remember in our code too, we have different levels of outdoor storage too. So this kind of goes along with that whole level idea. So it's elsewhere in the code that we have these different levels to determine sort of the impact and the approvability of So some of the things that we want to consider tonight are the approval methods, the locations of the display, the size of the display, the time of the display, and other considerations like screening, lighting, or cleanliness and orderliness of the display. The draft amendment that I included in your packet talks a little bit about some of those things, but I wanted to put these considerations in your staff report just to pose questions and get some feedback from the Planning Commission. And we definitely want to talk about those when we're talking tonight after my presentation. And going through really quickly the description of the level 1, 2, and 3. What we put for 1 was that includes the display of seasonal goods or special sales, which include but are not limited to the sale of potted plants, mulch, clothes racks, or small product display racks. So this is the smaller in nature type things, and this potentially could be improved just by staff. However, we want to talk about, in this case, would they be only allowed for a couple days at a time, a couple times a year? Do we want to say they can be allowed throughout the whole outdoor season, which is, I think in our code right now, April to October? Or do we want to sort of restrict it like we do like a temporary sign where you get X amount of weeks per year based on the size? You know, do we want some sort of matrix like that? And then level 2 would be the display of year-round goods that are subordinate and incidental to the principal use, which include things like propane, ice, and vending machines, or like the red box machines, any other thing that you typically would see outside that's not really moving, but it's still displayed outside and it's still a product that goes along with that business. Again, these would have to follow certain parameters for the location, the size, and the timing would probably be permanent unless otherwise moved, because you know, basically people moving their red box or their ice machines or their propane, they want to make sure they're where we want them when we approve them. And level 3 would be again kind of that catch-all of everything else, but I also wanted to include specifically large products or equipment, appliances, seasonal recreational items, which is stuff like pools, play equipment, accessory structures like we saw out in front of the Sam's Club there, which is like a shed or gazebo, or the display of building materials, which is fencing, papers. You typically see those maybe on the hardware. And those ones would likely come to the Planning Commission for a larger visual impact of that type of display of goods rather than some of these more seasonal temporary ones. And I did want to put in there that any signage that's affiliated with the display is subject to section 9, so they can't just automatically have special signage out there. Also, if someone wants to appeal or vary from this section, it would have to be heard by the village board. And penalty, we wanted to make sure that people know if they do this without meeting these regulations, there is a penalty for not having proper approval. So with that, that's a brief overview. This isn't too long of a code, so hopefully you're able to dissect it a little bit. But we definitely want to get your feedback. Again, one of the things that we added in here is the length of time for level 1 and what your thoughts are on that. And if there's any other of those considerations that you'd like to address.
Do you want to just say a little bit about this tonight?
Sure. Sure. So, Paul was
Who's going to be
mentioning.
here today?
Yeah. So what sort of brought this to our attention was Great Escape on Grange Road and about 172nd wants to put their equipment out there to show people what they've got. I think it's pools or play structures.
We're not going to do pools, but there was a fairly uneven competition with American Sales just up the road. And when we brought them through, I think I was talking to you about this about Pete. I don't think, Tim, you were probably on the commission when we brought them when Great Escape was built.
Right.
And during that process, it's a really beautiful building. We're really happy with the project, but there was a lot of discussion with the homeowners behind there. And I think it really took the focus of that whole review off of some of these other ancillary issues that were probably important to them. But they felt at the time they just needed to get the project approved and move forward. And because we found emails back and forth saying, you know, they weren't even interested in outdoor storage. But what happened less than maybe a month ago, they contacted the mayor. They didn't even contact us, and they were very upset that they were not having the sales, and they could close the business because they were not getting the sales that they wanted. And they felt it was an uneven competition. So it sort of took us back a little bit, and we kind of stepped back and looked at it and tried to figure out what other businesses have asked for this. The other one was our American Sales that you see off 80, the outlet, you know. And we've actually had to enforce our code on them and have them take the trampolines out of the front there. And I think they had a whirlpool or something.
Yeah, they've got an interesting building where if you ever drive along I-80, you see their building just north of I-80. They've got a little entrance with a bunch of glass windows that's 1 story, and they'll actually put things above
Up on
that.
the roof.
On the roof of
They had
the
a play
entrance.
structure up there.
And so they're getting like the height of that advertising to be viewed by I-80, but we had to tell them.
That's why Stephanie cleverly put in her text amendment, nothing on the roof, you know. But other than that, Walt is really our zoning administrator. You guys probably have never met him, but he's the guy out there enforcing this. And he says he really hasn't had a lot of chronic issues. Sears was one. But there are some of them that we get so used to seeing. I just told him the other day, and he didn't even realize it. Ace Hardware, for example, just down the street here. You know, you get so used to seeing these. But they have a lot of stuff out there, some mulch out front, and things you don't really think about because it's always there. So we really feel it's a pro-business approach, and yet, you know, we're proud that the village has kept a really nice kind of tidy appearance for those things because they can get really out of hand. So I think Stephanie's done a real good job trying to contain it and put some parameters on it.
I'd second what you said, Paul. I think Stephanie and your team here put together a nice text amendment. Looking for any input from any of the commissioners right now. Any questions you may have, feel free to ask away.
Yeah, I don't think I have any questions, but I think, I guess for like the level 1, I think if it would be, you know, to approve it, I think at the administrative level, just to make it quick and easy.
Yeah.
You know, make it simple. You know, we don't want all this red tape, you know, to, you know, bog down the village and the businesses, and, you know, so definitely I think at your level, great. And then level 3, yeah, definitely, you know, something large, you know, then, you know, then we should all have just take a look at it and see what's going to go there, and would it be an eyesore or not, or dangerous, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I think, you know, we have to keep the welfare of the people
And that's a good point, because if someone wants to have a sale for a weekend, for 2 days, why would it take them a month to get the approval for the 2 days?
Well, right, exactly, so again, this is pro-business, pro-Tinley, shop local, do it,
Yeah.
for sure.
So, level 1, I'm on the fence about the potted plants, the mulch, that kind of stuff. I could see that being displayed for a longer period of time than like clothes racks, small product displays. So I don't know, mulch and potted plants, you're gonna think that's gonna go from like the months that you said from, what'd you say, May to October or whatever?
April to October.
April to October, where like clothing racks, I would put like a stipulation on that, like, okay, if you wanna have a 3-day sale for a weekend, that's fine to display
Yeah,
that
don't want
stuff.
that out there all
No,
summer long.
mm-mm.
So do you think there should almost be 4 levels, and one gets kind of split into 2, where it's like the special sales versus the plants?
Versus like outdoor.
Well, we have the discretion. I mean, if you leave, from what I'm understanding, this is all under level 1, and we have the discretion of the term.
Yeah.
We can, so if it was a clothes rack, and we've sort of got the policy here that clothes racks get 3 days.
Yeah, we could put a stipulation in the time that says for clothes racks, you get this, and for.
And you've got seasonal items for whatever season, whether it's winter or summer.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there'll be salt requests for salt out front of some of these places.
One of the questions I have is how the pricing was come about. The level 1 has $50, and that might be a 1-day, it could be 3-day, but the red box and whatnot that are the ice machines, the propane that are out there all year round, that's the same $50. I think that's a little bit inequitable. I know the larger stores show it at $150, but maybe like, I don't know, TJ Maxx selling socks on the sidewalk for 1 day is $50 reasonable? What do they charge? What does the village charge at this point for nothing?
Out there on permanent, you mean like red box and stuff?
Yeah.
We don't even permit them.
Okay. But I think there should be some sort of distinguish, some sort of way to distinguish both, because I think if you're doing a 1-day sale on a weekend, and you're pushing a product like socks or something, versus a red box, and you're paying $50 for $365 versus $50 for 1 day, seems rather inequitable. I would look into
So
that.
do you feel it's too much money to charge $50 for a 3-day clothes rack sale?
Well, I had talked to an owner off of Oak Park Avenue who like once a year puts something out. He just requested his name not be mentioned, but he thought it was like $30 to $15 whenever he had to do that. But that was his recollection. He doesn't do it every year. So 1 year at $50.
We don't have a special event, do we? Special
Unless the
event permit is.
But so from that standpoint, it may seem a little bit inequitable. I'm not in terms of that pricing. You're better off having a permit for all year round if it falls in those criteria than for 1 day for the same amount of price. It doesn't seem like you get a lot of bang for your buck, especially if you're selling low-cost
So you're
items.
saying there's somebody, you want to have a price difference between someone that has it for the season versus a 3-day. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it should be, there should be some sort of differential made there. Just for the tier 1 and tier 2.
Can you do us one favor? Maybe look on those towns that you looked up, what their codes were. Can you maybe get what their fee structures are? And we can take a look at that, because I would very much tend to agree that for a seasonal item, quite honestly, I have them all highlighted in here because I think they're awful cheap for a seasonal item. My thought was to be $100 for the season, for the mulch, for the pavers. That's not a lot of money for them to pick up the amount of advertising that will give to them outside their store that they don't have to pay for.
It's kind of interesting. You can look at it a lot of different ways. Pervasively, our fees are low,
Yeah.
and that's something we're looking at. But, one, we're trying to be business friendly, and yet one, I don't want to necessarily encourage all of this, and it certainly is allowing some people to have greater real estate without paying the taxes for it. In other words, if they, they're selling a product that.
Yeah, they are, but then the other hand, we're getting the sales revenue.
That
So
what?
We're getting the sales revenue, so you want them selling,
Yes, true, true.
helping them sell.
True.
And if I was a business owner, $100 for me to be able to put something in front of my store for an entire season.
For the whole season.
Yeah, and
6 months at a
Good
time.
point.
I agree.
Each seat's $100 per season, so in other words, if they want to come back and they want to put salt out there, and thinking Ace Hardware, and you want snow blowers out there, then you know what, for that season, it's another $100.
And it's less administrative, I think.
You know what we might want to look at, and I'm sorry we didn't do this beforehand, in other communities, we've had special event permits. So like, I think about your guy downtown, you know, we're always trying to help the downtown, because those are the smaller businesses. So let's say there was sidewalk days, you know, generally, and so the whole downtown did it as one event. You know, I'd be hard pressed to be charging individually those businesses because it was a special event. Maybe it's a chamber event or something. But then on the alternate, we're looking at Michael's and Dick's and so forth that have kayaks out there for extended periods of time, like Michael's. I'd be curious of how you guys felt, because I didn't know if I was being. So how do you feel about these two, Five Below and the Michael's? Because those are out there
All the time.
summer long.
Yeah, all the time they're out there.
Yeah. So how do you all feel about that? I mean, they are in the
But they come in every night, too.
Huh?
Right.
But they come in every night.
Yeah, show them Michael's too.
It looks organized.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I
very
mean, it looks
organized
organized and
neat.
it's-
Yeah, I think so too.
And yet I'm thinking other communities, I think they're out there like that too. I'm trying to think, every Michael's I've ever seen
Has
had
the bins
that.
outside.
And it doesn't seem to encroach on the sidewalk.
Not
It's
at all.
accessible to people with special needs. I think it's not something that's encroaching on the public use of it.
I just think we need to turn it into a revenue producer for the town, to be very honest with you.
So to your point, this one we
And
would look
regulate.
at as a pure season, and, you know, $100 is nothing to them.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely.
Right.
Nothing.
And then it's $100 per season, so if they're going to do it during the winter months as well, because they do, they have the Halloween,
Well, I wonder
they
if
have
that's enough.
Christmas. Pardon me?
I wonder
Right.
if that's enough.
Right.
For a
Well,
whole
no, you don't,
season.
but you don't want to go over.
Maybe when you
in
go
my
back,
opinion, you wanna
when you go
over.
back and check the other communities and see what they're
Yeah.
doing, maybe
Yeah.
someone has something similar
Because
to
it's
that.
the equivalent to this is, even though it's not the whole season, you know, Jewel, you know, putting out their plants.
Right.
Jewel has something out there all the time.
All the time,
Right,
yeah. They
all the
do
time.
plants, they do
Mhm.
wood, they do.
Pumpkins.
Christmas
Yep.
trees,
Yeah.
wreaths. So every season they have something out
So
there.
really, it seems like I think we're all on the same page. We really want things to be neat. It's not
Right.
so much that they're outside.
Right.
Mhm.
You just don't want them scattered all over the place. I mean,
One other question to maybe ask the attorney, if it would be possible for the Legacy District businesses that they could receive a special permit
Be
to
treated
allow this
differently?
without cost.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know if you can do that,
Yeah.
I don't know how it would be
Good idea.
effective, but I just
don't
think.
so. My zoning district? Yeah, but I don't know if you'd really have to, Pete, if we make, because I don't know if anybody downtown, besides Ace Hardware, has a season long. If you guys feel like we should just kind of cut a break for the short 3-dayers, you
Yeah.
know,
Right.
and maybe look into a special event permit, see if something, if it's pulled under a special event permit, maybe it's got a different pricing strategy.
There may be no pricing at all, and see how it goes for that year, and we established a seasonal fee, right? And the only other thing is on both level 2 and level 3, I would definitely put in there under the fees, we'll pay an annual fee. Whatever the fee is that we end up generating,
Yeah.
it's gotta say annual fee, it just says a fee of, and it should be an annual fee, especially if they're pretty much structures that cannot be moved normally.
Yeah.
It's reasonable.
I always have to think, I agree totally with you. We just have to think through the administrative function of this, because
Right.
it's gonna be for us to administer it, we're gonna have to.
But if it's an annual fee, it's just a dues, it's due. So you gotta pay it on whatever date it is and.
What I like, when we were talking about this, what I like most about even permitting this is regulating the location. Because, for example, we had a liquor store on Oak Park Avenue, and we were able to convince them to put that ice machine around the side rather than put up front. And the only way, we were lucky that they were cooperative with us, but by requiring a permit, then we could start. Because some of those places, like Walgreens, has got a lot of stuff
Right.
that they put out front.
Right.
And the issue sometimes with those things like the ice machines or the propane is sometimes they don't meet the 36 inches for accessibility on the sidewalk. So
Yep.
That was the issue with the ice machine, is there was
Right.
the ice machine originally and then a
Right.
post, and he had to go into the parking lot around that.
Well, it gives us the right to look at that, but we'll have to, I think you're right, making it annual, I just will have to think about how to administer that, you know, whether we'll have a rolling registration, or
We
whether
do it
it's
now with the
January
vehicle
every year.
registration stickers, right? It's an annual thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can
Have
put
it
it out.
one time a year, every year or something, like our.
And then you got the
elevators
seasonal
and stuff.
on April 1st, and when's it over? October, so November 1st, April 1st, November 1st. I guess it should probably go from April through September, and then
We
October.
might be able to do something like a licensing. We might be able to do,
Yeah.
I'll have to check with Patrick about that. I don't know if anybody else has ever looked at it like
Another question that I had, and I don't mean to jump in here, but I will, on the size. For level 1, we had maximum area, standalone building 15%, multi-tenant building 25%. Then we had on number 2, 5% on a standalone building and 10% for a multi-tenant building. And then there was nothing for level 3. But if some of these places, like Great Escape, and I don't know if that's a total of the, well, it says tenant frontage. I mean, I'm looking at American Sales there on LaGrange Road down the street from Great Escape. And that's a heck of a lot more than 5% of their building frontage that
that.
they've got those
That would be
displays.
done on a one-by-one basis. That would be category 3.
Right. But here, I mean, if we've got,
Here's our Great Escape.
hello, Great Escape, guys.
Hey, guys, how are you? No, please, not because of.
Oh, you know what? Because it's 7, you thought it was 7:30, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right.
Please,
We
come
just
on in and
started-
sit down.
We're starting to meet at 7, but come on
Oh.
in. That's all right.
You guys mind starting over?
You can watch it on
Yeah.
Sit anywhere?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please move down, please move down.
But if you look at each of these, and I don't know if you were thinking that each display can only be up to 5% or 15% or each item,
We were
or if
just
it's
gonna
the
leave it
total.
overall area.
It's up to your discretion when we get to, so something like Great Escape would come before you under category 3, and then we would discuss, there's no required percentage on that one.
Yeah,
So
but
it's-
like on number 2, where you're talking, and number 2 is talking about,
2 is just propane, it's those little machines, those.
that's all that would be for?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're staying there permanently, so that's why
Right.
it was level 2 rather than level 1.
And level 3 is the swimming pools, hot tubs, and whatever
It's
else.
a case-by-case
Right.
decision, because some products, you know, a Great Escape, their products are larger. You know, someone else might have widgets that are small.
These percentages for level 2, the 5% for the standalone and the 10% for the multi-tenant, were those compared to the other villages and cities you looked at, just as a,
You know, they're all a little different. Some of them was more about how many feet and, you know,
Yeah.
10 by 15 by, 15 tall. The problem is once you put a certain foot on it, you might have someone who only has a 20-foot-long storefront,
Yeah.
but then they get to use 15 feet of that to have this display. So to
Oh,
me,
yeah.
it made more sense to do it as a percentage of their tenant frontage, so that you have the scale of, you only have a portion of that storefront that you're using.
Absolutely, I totally agree. That's completely logical. I just meant like some of the existing businesses like Walgreens, that was brought up, like their propane, their ice, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure if they have a red box there, but are they all within that 5%, or is that something where all of a sudden they got to, knock out one of those ice machines? That's like, how was the 5% derived, I guess, I'm asking.
So I would go measure the building and, or if I
He just wants to know,
haven't
did we
filed
test it?
Yeah.
I haven't tested
Okay.
it, but you would go measure the frontage.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it needs to be tested. I
Yeah.
thought Walt was gonna help us out with.
Yeah, I'll
The-
get back to them.
Just to hone that number, perhaps maybe the businesses
Yeah,
have
we pulled the
8%.
number out of the sky,
Yeah.
but I think we were gonna test that, so.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Where's that? What's your number 2?
We've kind of gone through the whole. So.
Yeah, we're on item number 1 still, on the agenda.
No, he was asking whereabouts in the,
Oh.
in the text.
I can understand the 5% rule.
Chairman, would you want to have them make any kind of a statement?
Yeah, once the commissioners are
Okay.
done asking staff with any questions that they might have, yeah, we were going to kind of break it fast.
So you guys are considering level 1, level 2, tier 1, you guys, the staff, is gonna approve all that, and the only thing that will come up to us is level 3.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's because, like Eduardo mentioned earlier, those level 1 and level 2 are gonna have very prescribed, amounts of size and location and time. So it'll be easy for us to say, okay, here's the rules, and if you guys approve those rules, then we know you're on board with that being okay. And like he said, if there's a 3-day sale, then we have to get them to come to you. They have to wait 2 to 3 weeks
Yeah.
to have us
That
do a
wouldn't make any
report about
sense.
it, bring it to you, and then it would really discourage them to have that sale to know they can't do it for a month.
Yeah.
They come to us, they're like, we want to have a sale tomorrow.
Yeah.
But like we said, with level 3, it's larger items, probably longer time span, and it might not be right in front of the building. In their case, it might be next to the building or something. So to make sure that we address all those special situations that don't fall within the level 1 and level 2, we would want to bring that to you.
Okay, perfect.
And again, on the level 3, we would turn that to an annual fee, once we figure out what the fee structures should be and what they are in surrounding towns, to make sure that we're cognizant of what's going on around us and the neighbors. Then on level 1, we'll also look at seasonal, as the commissioner asked, seasonal as well as short sales. We'll kind of split that into 2. Okay.
For the allowable timing and the cost.
Yes, the
Yes.
fee structure, yeah.
But
Yeah.
the overall size, you're okay with the same size being allowed for both?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just thought, usually level 3 will be, it's like a site plan review, though it is a permanent request they're making. You just wonder, and we've sort of grouped it there because of the magnitude of it. So we really haven't put any limitations on the size of a product. Like a Great Escape type business decided they just wanted to do it 1 year during the season. What would stop them from coming in category 1?
Because of the description about what category 1 and category 2 is.
So.
And a
I'm
pool is
trying
going to be
think of
considered a permanent structure. If they put a pool out there, it's going to be considered a fairly permanent structure.
Yeah, but I think of another example, I don't know. like
Lawn chairs?
Lawnmowers.
Yeah.
Like,
Seasonal.
Somebody wants to put their lawnmower out.
It's defined in the definition for level 3, that would be equipment.
Okay, so we're only gonna do the gardening like we did before. The level 1 is pretty much what we had before.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That and saying that they could have like a small product display in there, like say, Bath and Body Works wants to put their lotions out or something. Something like that.
As long as nothing goes on the roof.
Yes. Lotion.
Any other questions of staff, commissioners?
I just have a quick question. So if somebody's leasing a building, they'll probably have to go through the owner of the building to get that Plata survey for submission, I'm assuming. But it would be the owner of the business that would have to submit this, not the owner of the structure.
I mean,
When we do any kind of permit, we always have to have an owner sign off on it because we want
Okay.
the owners to know what's happening with the property.
With their building?
Okay, fair enough. I was just curious. Okay,
Any
thank you.
question?
if they don't have the plat of survey, which we would hope they did,
Yeah.
we would at least want to see them measure out exactly what they do have and give us a scale drawing of what they're wanting
Okay.
to do.
So we should say like Plata survey or equivalent scale drawing, I mean, perhaps?
We've done that in the past.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as we have the correct dimensions, that's what we care about.
Because I would think some people who are leasing, they don't have the Plata survey, and it may take them some time to get it from the owner, if the owner has that readily available. So just something to consider, that's all.
We have a lot on file too, that kind of helps us out sometimes.
Anything else? With that, kind of give you a summary, guys. You're both from Great Escape. We've kind of gone through, we've read through the text amendment here. We've talked about fee structures. We've talked about how to break up level 1 into seasonal items and quick sale items. Staff will be coming back to us to let us know what the fee structures are for surrounding towns. They'll also come back to us with the percentages of how much of the storefront or of the building you can actually put your displays in front of the building on. display times, we're going to be looking at that, breaking, again, level 1 into seasonal items and quick sale items, and you've got the other 2 are more permanent structures. In your case, if you put a swing set out or picnic tables, not picnic tables, but the patio sets out during the spring and summer, and then you want to come back in the fall and winter and do hot tubs and whatever else you might have there. The 2 different seasons, so we'd be breaking it up for your thought here into different seasons here. For instance, I know I was at your store in July 4th holiday weekend, and I saw that you had some chairs out there and some other things. That would be considered a special event for the July 4th, because you would bring it in every night as well,
Right.
which you guys did, I know. So, with that, those were the questions, I think, that we asked staff to come back with. If I'm missing anything, please feel free to jump in, and with that.
I just said,
Yes.
but theirs would be more of a level 3.
Oh, absolutely,
Right,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I was talking about the lawn, they had lawn chairs and patio
Those,
umbrellas.
we consider those permanent, decorative. That's how we looked at those around, lawn dining chairs.
In that 4th of July, we did put some
Oh, did
chase
you?
lounges outside.
Yeah, there were some other things out there.
Did.
Yeah, broken rules.
And I actually almost got hit by a lady when I was leaving. She came in and she almost ran up on the curb and almost hit the dog. I think she was looking at him is what she was
She
doing.
was so excited the prices were so cheap, I can't control it.
It's unbelievable, right? It's unbelievable. But no, please, feel free to come on in, and this is a workshop here. We're not actually taking any action. We'd love to hear your thoughts, since you've kind of been the impetus behind this.
Right. Well, I'm coming from a different part because he's actually one of the investors of the building. I come from the retail end who does the sales and marketing, so we rent from him.
Okay.
It's like it's a nice mutual relationship. I've been doing it for years. The impetus of why we are here is because we met with Paula and we felt strangled. There's been a mess on the whole project. It was his first choice, our second choice. Not to bore you with details, but when we got into Tinley Park, and we're from Tinley Park originally, it was our second store 28 years ago. Don't let my age fool you, please, that's hard. We're trying to get to a place and a space where what we do is we sell nothing people need. We realize that. They want it. But to want it, you got to visually see it. Because there's a little thing called the internet, and it's probably going to catch on soon. So if you haven't caught on to it to buy stuff, it's coming. But we deal with it every day, and the way that we get around it is we create an experience. People see something, it's like eye candy. We hear it every day. People come in the store, they say, wow, we had no idea you had all this stuff. But the guy across the street, it's got a lot more stuff, and it's outside, and it's grand, and that's why originally I had picked Orland, because what you see at American are in its friendly competition. We've both been in it a long time. They do a great job. It's a big business. There's a lot of room for people, and it's just to create an environment at home. But to have that environment at home, people need to see it. And Tinley Park, the way that it was, and we appreciate the change and the opportunity to speak, is we're a little bit, it's the only store out of the 20 we have where we have such a ill-will display outside because of the way the rules were set, that people, didn't look like we ever had a sale. They would come in to buy maintenance products and say, well, you don't look familiar. Where did you buy? Well, we bought it across the street. They had a tent sale, and we bought it there. But we're buying the chemicals from you. Your prices are better. And it's discouraging. You have family members that live in Tinley Park. They're salespeople, and they're like, this is crazy. But we've been working with Paula and have one of the building owners here. We want to be able to be not obnoxious. We're all about image. We want to, whatever the rules are, we're going to follow, but we're really at a big disadvantage the way that it sits now. So I didn't get the specifics of what the 5% or how much footage it needs. We're not here to put permanent displays up. Our displays change. If we decide to do a pool park, which will work accordingly within the rules, a pool park just creates the illusion where people can come out and see a swimming pool and a hot tub with a deck and patio furniture, because they're investing in their home and they got to visually see it. And when they visually see it and they can taste it, and they can smell it, and they can sit in it, it creates sales. Good revenue for us, good tax revenue for you guys. We can't do that right now. So we're struggling in one aspect, and that's why we're really here. We apologize for being tardy. I thought it was 7:30, so we apologize for that. So it's important for us, and I understand when you make rules for us that you never thought of, like the Walgreens or the Bed Bath & Beyond with lotions all over the place. We don't have little widgets. Ours are big, beautiful. It just, again, it's a leisure product, so people like to see it. It's furniture, it's a play set, it's a trampoline. As a matter of fact, the mayor didn't even know we carried play sets. That's the lowest volume store in play sets out of 24 is Tinley Park. And when we were in Orland, at the temporary store, it was our number 2 store in play sets. So that revenue, we can't make up. We have salesmen that say, let me go work at the Joliet store because we've got a great big outdoor beautiful display. And what's upsetting is, we're from Northwest Indiana. Our second store was Tinley Park. So our flagship store is now Tinley Park. Reps pull up. It's a beautiful building, but it's sterile. So without beating a dead horse, we're anxiously looking to help recreate if we can, or what can help us. That would be great because we love it. We've been doing it a long time here, and to possibly have people whispering in my ear to leave and look at another building and have a furniture store come in, it's ridiculous. We built it for this need, and if we can get through this together, then obviously this is our mainstay. So we appreciate the time and thank you for listening. So any questions you guys might have, I understand it's a workshop.
No, thank you for
Good.
coming up and speaking. The only thing I would ask is that at the next meeting, which will start at 7 o'clock.
Sure.
if you
I'll be
guys
here at
could-
6:30, don't worry about it.
You guys could read through the text amendment and make sure that if there's any questions at that time for
Sure.
public comment.
Sure.
During the public hearing, that's when
Yeah,
we'll want
we
to
sent
go.
them a copy, and I haven't really heard anything back.
Was there anything you needed to add?
It's just on the display, is it possible that it will be able to be allowed on a temporary basis on the parking lot itself?
That's
Because
something that they will look at. You will be category 3, and so it's looked at on a case-by-case basis. So they will look at that, and when they consider that, they're gonna look at accessibility, safety, aesthetics. Does it need to be screened, not screened? So they'll look at all of that. It's like a site plan review.
I mean, when you look at, isn't it Darvin Furniture that's in Orland Park? Don't they have like every year a tent sale
Right.
they have in their parking lot? And it seems to be very successful and
Yeah, it
they draw
does.
lots
Right.
of people in.
Yeah.
And that's something I think would be awesome for you guys.
Right. You need a job.
Yeah.
And we all understand in the area of competition that right down the street, about a mile away, half a mile away.
Half a mile away, right?
Yeah,
Right.
is the Jones family's
Yeah.
flagship store there. So
Right.
we understand, we hear that we're looking for input from you.
Sure.
In the public hearing portion, which will be the next meeting that this goes to. And we look forward to any questions that you have of us, as well as us of you, and any comments you have regarding the text amendment as written. You've heard what staff will come back with for the public hearing to help us understand
Right.
what the other towns are doing here. And if you have any questions in between, I know Stephanie and Paul will both be available.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioners, anything else on the first item on the agenda? Okay, if we can move on to the second item on our agenda, the text amendment to the Village of Tinley Park zoning ordinance, section B, period B, period. Truck rental in the MU-1 overlay district. Consider recommending that the village board approve text amendments to section B, period, schedule 1 of the Village of Tinley Park zoning ordinance. The proposed text amendments include, but are not limited to, allowing truck rental as a special use in the MU-1 overlay district of Duvon Drive. Stephanie?
So this is another one that's coming to you because of some requests that we had from people in the community. Similar.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Can I just have you guys sign in here, so I have your names? Thank you.
Sorry.
I can get it for you.
You sure? Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
And so we've had a couple businesses, one business in the Duvan Drive area that was inquiring about having a budget truck rental in conjunction with their current business, which is a warehousing function. There is one current business in Duvan Drive that has a U-Haul rental currently. And as of the time of the staff report, we weren't aware of this, but I did reach out to the business owner, Tim and Otto there, and they actually did receive staff approval, although I haven't found the records of that. About 5 years ago, they spoke with our previous staff over here and did receive approval to do the U-Haul business here. But other than that, there wasn't any special use permit on file or any stipulations that we saw in the files. But we wanted to talk about whether or not this type of use is something that we would like to allow in the Duvan Drive area. We do have sort of a mixture of automotive and warehousing and industrial type uses in this area. If you've ever been out there, it's kind of a hodgepodge. A lot of the buildings are older, a lot of the sites are older, and it's an area that we really do want to get more business to drive some reinvestment in the area. No pun intended with the drive and truck rental. So we wanted to talk about how we could possibly think about allowing that type of use, the budget rental, U-Haul rental type thing out there, and the certain stipulations we want to place on those. And so I included some pictures of the current U-Haul. They're on the screen in front of you now, just to give you an idea. The first picture on the top is one that I took a couple weeks ago, and then the bottom two are from Google Street View. You can actually see between the Google Street View and my picture, there's actually less slats in the fence. It's looking a little more like it needs some TLC. And the idea originally was to have the screening there from the fence to screen the vehicles. However, the screening over time has sort of fallen out and not been repaired. In talking to the business that owns that, it's in Auto Repair, they've been at that location 40 or 50 years or something. Definitely staying, I think, and they're looking to actually buy this lot across the street from them that has the vehicle, the U-Haul and vehicle storage across the street there. They're looking to do improvements, and they know sort of what they need to do. So they're on board with doing new screening and paving some of that gravel area, that sort of thing. But we want to make sure if anyone else is interested in doing that type of business.
I'm just passing a picture. I went by there today and took a picture. It's really gotten a little bit beat up.
So they know what they need to do, so it's not going to be a surprise to them to have these new regulations. They may be watching the meeting or watching the YouTube later, because I told them about us talking about this tonight. And so I included some considerations for if we were to allow this as a special use in this district, what we might want to look at. And being parked on a paved surface, I think, is important, because the gravel is really not an allowable parking surface. Cannot be parked in parking spaces that they need for the business for Section 8, so they can't take up their required parking that they need for their customers and their employees with these type of vehicles. They have to have an excess of spaces basically to make this work. Must be screened from view, and I put in vinyl privacy fencing, because I know that's our favorite fencing here. And we don't really want to see this chain link with the slats that are falling out, because those slats are almost a semi-permanent sort of screening. And it takes a lot of upkeep, I think, to really keep those looking nice. Landscaping is also a screening option as well, or a combination of the two, because I don't think we want to see these types of vehicles from the public right of way if we choose. And being parked in a manner that doesn't block entrances, drive aisles, or other access ways. Something that was important to the fire department is, can they still get around the building to fight fires, either U-Hauls or budget cars or whatever it is? Are they blocking the normal egress and ingress? So we want to definitely think about that. I think if there's any other conditions that I missed, please let me know when we're discussing. And the other thing too, you'll see in the code here, I also wanted to make a change to the table. On the top of the screen here, you can see it says we've got equipment rental and leasing services, heavy equipment sales and rental, and then 2 categories for vehicle sales and rental. First of all, I wanted to clarify that first category is being the light equipment sales and rental, because right now it's not really distinguishing between those 2 categories, but one is permitted and one is a special use. So just to clarify that in this text amendment, since we're sort of talking about equipment sales and rental anyway, I wanted to consider this change just to clarify the light versus the heavy, which is permitted versus which is special use. And then when we talk about the truck rental, we would add this category here. And something that Paula and I were talking about is, do we distinguish between the car rental and the truck rental? You know, is this budget vehicles or budget trucks and moving vans and that sort of thing? So right now, we do have the category for the vehicle sales / rental, and it's not something that's allowed in this area unless it's internally displayed, which you're probably not going to do with budget or U-Haul. And also, the other thing to think about too is the U-Haul has these trailers they have the cargo van type things, you know, what do we define as the truck versus the vehicle? And which types of vehicles do you think are appropriate for this rental type?
Or just to do an exclusion, non-passenger cars or something. Everything but passenger cars. I think that's the word they use.
And what's wrong with passenger car rental then?
Well,
I mean, why
there's
wouldn't we
not-
want to prohibit it?
There's not a whole lot of parking on a lot of these sites. It's usually just larger buildings. We do have, I think, a couple other industrial areas that do have sort of a vehicle storage or rental that's more of a passenger size vehicles. But that's something that we would probably focus in the B5 district where we have the auto sales and dealerships and stuff. It's zoned for that basically.
But I'm thinking more like an enterprise or a budget rental car.
Yeah, I mean,
Place,
there's
because
so
there's-
many car repair shops there.
Exactly.
Like, it'd be a great location for something like that.
You know, it's a real fine line, and if we didn't have someone that had asked us about this, or if we didn't discover that there was one out there that we'd like to do something about, I don't know if we would be really entertaining this. And, you know, in terms of a principle, you don't want to write the code to a particular situation. That's really kind of a no-no. We're doing that in some senses. But I could easily argue that this is our heaviest industrial area. You know, of all of our, it's not like our other ORIs that kind of try to be a little light industrial and office. And there's, I think, a solid argument that heavy equipment was already contemplated in here. Trucks, trailers are more alike heavy equipment than a passenger car would be. So I felt it was somewhat of a clean demarcation that the average resident isn't going to go into this area to rent their car to go to grandma's. I mean, they're going to do that in a business district. And at least for now, the ones that are utilizing this U-Haul company, they do not want to rent anything but the trucks. Obviously, that's all they do, U-Haul, I think.
Something I'm just thinking about is the State of Illinois building that was there, the emissions
Right,
building.
the D&D.
That would be a perfect place because they've got garages.
Yep.
That would be a perfect place for an enterprise rental car or even a sales car.
But
As you
see, the
mentioned, there's a-
enterprise, even though the internet is really helping them, they do like the drive-by marketing.
No, I'm not discounting
And
that
they're
at all.
not gonna get it here.
Well, the one that they have at 159th and Harlem, do you know where they are, that enterprise is? It's not drive-by. It's on
Where's
the
that?
side of Meyer, yeah, way in back
Way
on
in
the side of
back,
Meyer.
behind
Same.
Meyer.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm just saying that we see what Budget Navis did there on Orland Park, which is very expensive real estate, and good for them, but I'm just thinking with all the auto repair places there.
There's 3 of them
Yeah.
back there.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That building would be perfect for one of these car rental places, as well as Enterprise sells their cars too. They have that one on Harlem and Worth.
Yeah, I don't have a super strong feeling about it.
I'm not so sure we want to say it prohibited, maybe a special use permit. That way we don't limit what those goes.
Well, you would just put it with this, you just say any vehicle leasing. If you're comfortable with that, then you would just say all vehicle leasing. I could argue out of both sides of my mouth on that one. We're a little disturbed that we went through all this work, and did you tell, you didn't really tell them that yet, did you?
Well, the person that first inquired about this and is not currently doing it no longer wants to do it. But we weren't informed of that until we.
After we got the
sending
packet
out-
done and did all the work.
Well, I'd like to comment, though. I think, I thought you guys always put together an excellent package. And I read your chart on page 3 of 4, and it says vehicle sales / rental. And it does specifically say allowed in MU1, prohibited. And it said there isn't a clear distinction, but in section 2, page 34, and I'm going to provide copies for those who don't have it, if you don't mind passing, Commissioner Croner. It does say that, maybe I gave my copy away, for vehicle sales / rental, it's defined as is the use of any building, structure, or lot used for the sales or rentals of automobiles, trucks, vans, trailers, recreational vehicles, boats, motorcycles, or other similar motorized vehicles, either on-site or via the internet. Such use may include offices, internal parts storage, and on-site repair and service facility as an accessory use. And as it says here, it says prohibited. And I know like a couple weeks ago, we had a gentleman in for a sign, and it explicitly said that changing letters out was prohibited. So that was non-negotiable. So it says prohibited here, and whether that company doesn't want to do it or not, I think the bigger issue is that I think it's pretty explicit. The second item down in that chart, or the fourth item on page 3 of 4, says vehicle sales, rental, parentheses, internal display only. That's not defined in here. And it says special use permit required. I interpret that to mean you have like a building that rents it out, and then you would like, you drive to a separate like lot where those vehicles are corralled. That happens at airports and whatnot. So it wouldn't be actually on site. That's how I interpret the internal display only for special use permit. But in terms of, for consistency, if it's prohibited in one instance and it's non-negotiable, I see the same thing in here, vehicle sales rental, and it's very clear to me that it would be prohibited in this case as well. And I would think that that should be one of the alternatives, whether we make it permitted, special use, or prohibited on the table. And I would strongly suggest that in this case, to be consistent, it would be prohibited. With that said, I do know the traffic patterns of Duvan Drive intimately, and I don't know if that Duvan Drive would allow for one or many rentals on a daily basis with the truck traffic they get. And I'm talking about the semi-tractor trailers, because many times on Duvan Drive, it will be reduced to one lane where you have to wait for another person to go east while you go west, and because you're jockeying around a truck. I don't think the pavement's wide enough, and it's probably not, in terms of the thickness of pavement, strong enough to hold those additional loads, in my opinion. But I think that's a moot point. I think the bigger point is it clearly stated that it's prohibited? In my opinion, it is based on the existing zoning ordinance.
But that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
We'd change it.
Yeah, and that's what you were saying, like, do we change it and whatnot?
So you're almost saying that instead of adding the category of truck rental, because it's already part of the definition in vehicle sales and rental, we would just change the current X under MU1 to an S for special use.
Well, yeah, and effectively, because on the last page, you have the chart, and it shows X under vehicle sales rental, and it has S for truck rental. That would be a conflicting, one saying it's prohibited and one saying that it'd be a special permit, and both have trucks already inherently in it. So you would have a conflict there. But I would recommend that it
We can also change the definitions too. I mean, we can do whatever we want to do.
right. You would have to, if you add truck rental, you would definitely have to change the definition for vehicle sales / rentals.
Right.
You would.
I think we had seen another definition. I was just whispering to this. Under equipment rental it was. I'm looking for it now.
Equipment.
Yeah, under the definitions we had, heavy equipment defined as specialty vehicles, may include but are not limited to dump trucks, cement trucks. Okay, now I remember. So we felt it didn't fall into that because those were not, like these U-Haul trucks wouldn't be defined as dump trucks, cement trucks, right?
Number 5 equipment talks about equipment less than 8,000 pounds, including generators, farm tractors, small trailers, and then it says standard passenger vehicles, trucks weighing 8,000 pounds or less are exempt from this definition. So it didn't really say where the standard.
It didn't really tell us what the trucks was gonna be. I don't know if you have that in front of you.
Yeah, no, I do, and you're right. The heavy equipment is page 14, and as you mentioned, dump trucks, backhoes, lifts, etc. That's construction equipment. That over 8,000.
Look under light, and then under light equipment, right under the next one, then it addresses standard passenger vehicles and trucks weighing 8,000 pounds or less are exempt from this definition. So whoever wrote this back then, I think, we assumed that they purposely left trucks out of it, but didn't really address it anywhere. So we could go, you can go either way. I mean, it's, but whatever we do, we have to make the appropriate text changes.
So potentially to clarify this, since the light equipment definition excludes the vehicles less than 8,000 pounds, we would take that sentence and put it in the definition for vehicle sales and rental, because it's kind of not talking about where that belongs. So potentially we could change that definition to include that if we keep that same category, the vehicle sales / rental, and then just make that the special use in the MU1. Or like Paula said, we can make a new definition specific to trucks if we don't have to do the passenger.
Yeah, I don't know what you think the consensus is of the commission. Do you want to do a little straw poll or tell us whether you want us to allow passenger cars in the MU1, or do you want to keep it separate?
I would say,
I would allow it.
yeah, just include trucks in the vehicle sales and rental, and just make it special
I'm
use.
sorry, could you speak a little louder?
Include trucks in the vehicle sales rental and just make that special use
To do both of them, is that what everybody's kind of?
instead of separating it all.
Okay, and that's easy, that's actually easy to do. So we can just exclude the whole truck rental line here, and then just add your S's in.
We just have to go back in reference to what's existing and change that too, if this goes through.
And there will be one other part of the table that changes, and I didn't include it in this, but if you notice in section 5, we have it categorized by category, and then zoning district, zoning district, zoning district. You see it in this view, like you see out here. And then we also have a different way that it's shown, where it has just MU1, and then everything that's allowed in MU1.
We have to make all those changes.
Yeah, so it will be changed in both ways, but I just wanted to show you this one for comparison of where it's allowed. Because the other one doesn't really tell you about other areas that allow or don't allow those uses. So just know that in your next one, you'll see it change in one other place, but it's not anything new and different. It's just the two different views of the same regulation.
Any other questions?
Can you imagine going through the entire zoning ordinance and making text amendments?
Well, you get paid the big bucks. Then the next step will be this will come back at the next meeting for public hearing. Okay. Guys, thank you very much again on both reports. You guys did a great job. Thank you. We'll move on to the next, the good of the order. Although I do have a question about the good of the order. What happened to the chickens? I thought we were going to talk about chickens at this meeting.
Chickens, not yet.
Not yet? Okay, very good.
I can make a bad joke. I'm not going to. All right, good of the order. The first thing is we have a fellow commissioner that has resigned. His name, is Bill Lemonier. I don't want to murder his name. Lemonier. He has decided to no longer be on the Plan Commission. So the mayor is aware of it, and he will be making a recommendation, and it'll go through board. And so we may have a new member. I'm not sure when. I did contact Rob today to see if he knew when this was going to happen, and there's no word yet. So I'm sure if you have some recommendations, the mayor would probably love to hear them. So
I think there's a couple of commissioners that were on before that will probably want to get back on. Very good ones. But, okay.
all right. Well, I might lead to something else. That if one of them wants to come back, the Residences Project, we have some more expertise on there. So we did meet with them again this week, and had representatives of the developer and representatives of the residents from Brookside Glen. And so I think it was a very productive meeting. I would say at this point, we're moving towards a 4-building site plan. Stephanie and I had studio on it today. We still have some things that we're concerned about on the plan. We're meeting with them tomorrow. So we're trying to keep that kind of project moving ahead. Probably isn't going to be in front of you guys again, though. I was playing around with the schedule here. And I have be in October. I'm presuming October 5th might be the first time it'll make its way back here.
So that's a four building.
Four building, but still 144 units.
And the amenities, a lot of those?
Luxury amenities, all luxury amenities, all the same luxury amenities. So I don't want to be premature in saying that, and we're televising this, so we really just had the meeting this yesterday. And we just had our studio this morning, and we're going to have another meeting tomorrow. So, you know, you guys get the latest and the greatest. So, we're continuing to work on the Lakota downtown plan. We have stakeholder meetings starting Monday, and then another set of them on following Monday. We have various groups of people being interviewed as part of that. We did just ask the chair to be in the meeting for the interview. I'm sure if any of you are really concerned and want to provide some input one-on-one with Lakota, we'd be glad to accommodate you. If that's so, feel free to call Barb. And we just have set meetings, set 45-minute increments on those 2 days, the 21st and the 29th. The 21st probably has the most openings to it right now. We had a meeting today. We have renewed interest in the Central Middle School site. So a lot of these downtown projects, it's important to keep them alive and moving ahead, but they're going to be dependent on the Lakota plan, and they're going to talk to us about where the plaza is best located. And they're also reacting to the preliminary plans we have for South Street and Berman Cash Store and North Street, what we have in hand right now. If you watched the last board meeting, we've been given the approval to move ahead on a new TIF district, at least the study of creating a new TIF district. If you are familiar with that process, it's a fairly detailed and involved eligibility and verification process for establishing a TIF, and has certain blight criteria that has to be met. So we've hired Ellers to do that. I know there were some questions from the audience why we can't do this in-house. It is very involved. I've been involved in probably 10, 15 TIFs in my life, and we've always used a consultant, and usually has a very large legal component to it as well. The state statute gets bigger every year for tax increment financing, so staff could never stay on top of that. We had an in-block groundbreaking last Friday. Some of you were involved in that. That's the 300,000 square foot spec building that's on Prosperity Drive. Pardon? And Ridgeland, going over to Ridgeland. It hits Ridgeland. It doesn't allow though Prosperity to extend to Ridgeland. Prosperity still stops at M Block and then comes into the terminal. Some of you were also involved in the Verizon Prosperity cell tower that got approved at the last board meeting. So they'll be, they have their plans just submitted. They'll be breaking ground on that. The Innovative Decks project just left you. So the board did a first reading and supported your recommendations. So that'll go to an approval in 2 weeks. I'm on vacation next week. Stephanie's off getting married, and a couple weeks after that. So don't call us at all. We're not going to be around the office. But we interviewed a part-time planner. I had asked for some extra help, and the village manager graciously agreed, because I am going to have surgery somewhere, I'm hoping, in the next couple months or so. And so we did get that contract approved at the last meeting. A woman by the name of Ellen, I know her as Ellen DeVita. Ellen, she's going to kill me. Weber is her new married name. I've known her, I hate to tell you how long I've known her. We used to wait tables together at U of I. She's a very smart woman, many years of experience, not only in planning, but economic development and in building. I tried to encourage her to apply for my job, but she lives in Elgin, so she's not really interested in commuting that far permanently. We do have that ad out though, so we're really hoping, you know, if you've been following the whole residency discussion at the board, they already had approved for my position to drop it. So that I felt really strongly about, that we needed to get that dropped to get a better pool of applicants. There's a 30-mile radius. So we've gotten in a few resumes, but I'm really, really hoping that we're gonna get somebody. So you'll have a new face up here. And then we also have an ad out for the building official and the business retention specialist. So we have a lot of hiring going on in community development. Anything else?
Yeah, just really quick, the APA Illinois State Conference, if anyone wants to do that training, we've only had one person sign up. So it is really great training, and we do have some money left in the budget if anyone wants to do that.
Don't push it that much.
I know, but it's the 14th of September, I think it's a Thursday, if anyone is interested in coming to that, or any of the conference sessions. You can reference my former email, or if for some reason you need me to send that information out to you again, we do want to get you ready.
Was this the one that was in Bloomington last year? The same one?
The one that you went to
Yeah.
a couple years ago.
It's in
Couple years
Naperville
ago.
this year. Yeah, so, right.
It's in Naperville.
Naperville, right, yeah.
Not too far.
And you got your planning magazine today, right?
Thank you so much. I just had one thing I wanted to say. Thank you, Paul. I was watching the village board meeting, and you did bring up, which was important to the planning commission when we approved the cell tower. And I apologize, I can't remember the name of the organizations who.
The Verizon or the Central, CTS.
CTF, you know, one thing that we were concerned about is at CTF, they employ challenged individuals. I think both physically and mentally challenged individuals, both young adults and adults. And we wanted to make sure that the parents, that the parents were informed that there was a cell tower going up there. And B, just making sure that the board that runs the organization also knew that. And they followed through on that. And Paul did share with the village board before it was voted on that exactly what CTF did and was, and what had been transpired from the commission. So thank you for doing that. That being said, looking at the audience, wondering if there are any comments from the public. Seeing none. Commissioners, anything? Comments? We'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I have motion to adjourn the meeting.
Perfect.
Second.
Very good. Thank you very much.
8:15. Good job.
There we go, Pete.